feel like I'm Kai Cenat. What's up, chat? No, I'm kidding. Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. Who's local? Who's here from Dallas? Awesome. Hello, folks. Thanks for staying. You know, DFW rush hour starts at 3. As someone that lives off of 380 and the tollway, I know it very well. Where did you guys come in from? Anyone coming from really far away? Yep.
College Station.
College Station, Texas A&M?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you an Aggie?
No, my wife is.
Oh.
I work for the Transportation Research Institute.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else came in from other places? Yep.
I'm from Houston.
Ooh, H-Town. I lived there 4 years. Know it well. Yeah.
Midland, Texas.
Midland. Oh, Landman. You watch Landman?
I don't, but everyone says it.
Oh, you have to watch it. Okay, now I have to get back on program. You got to watch it. It's great. It takes place in Midland. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mastering Large Language Models, Prompt Engineering for Precision and Performance. And this is going to be one of those talks that is a little bit more of a softer talk. You've probably seen a lot of code today. You're going to see a lot less code in this talk, but I like to break it up sometimes. If I see a lot of technical sessions have been submitted, I like to throw in a little bit of a softer, a little bit more laid back talk. So I submitted this one. And it got accepted. Woohoo! I'm Danielle Larregui, and I manage the developer advocacy team at Atlassian. And we actually have one of our newest members, our newest developer advocates in the room, Bree Hall. Hi, Bree. I don't think the camera is going to pan out online people. She exists. And we are actually, I'm growing the developer advocacy team at Atlassian, and actually we are posting 2 new positions, this is a little plug, on October 1st. So if you're interested in joining us in building developer advocacy at Atlassian, feel free to reach out to me. We are 100% remote, not hybrid. So if you like working from home in your PJs like I do, feel free to apply. And part of our thing at Atlassian also is we have an open communication, no BS culture, build for trust, accountability is a team sport, and empower all humans and unleash their potential. Those are some of our values. So if you feel like those values resonate with you, feel free to apply or talk to me later in the hallway track. All right, now getting back on topic. So we're starting to see a huge shift in software development. Many devs are starting to say that they are finding that they are spending or really wasting 8+ more hours to inefficiencies of their day. And we're also seeing that developers are finding that it's very hard to track down and share information. Now, unless you've been under a rock, you've been seeing that there's been this new boom where everyone's starting to talk about AI, agents, large language models. And many companies are actually starting to invest in growing their AI capabilities and investing in large language models, but their employees, their culture, their people, they don't really understand how to use it actually in their day-to-day. Now, as devs, we're finding that actually devs are writing less and less code every day. So a portion of the devs' time these days is actually less than 1/4 of their day is actually spent writing code. How much time of your day is spent writing code? Who here is spending about 25% or less of their day writing code? Anyone? Okay, a few of you. What about 50% or less of your day is writing code? Okay. 75% or less writing code? How about 100%? You're just always writing code. You're always in your IDs. Everybody? Okay. All right. And we're actually seeing that we are spending 84% of our day as devs actually working on other things. So estimating story points. It's going to start bringing back some of that PTSD I used to have back in the day. Agile sprints, bug triage, context switching, meetings, and more meetings. Who here loves meetings? Everybody's like, nope, I don't love meetings. Updating libraries, feature flag cleanups, all of these things are contributing to the rest of our days and are really impacting the amount of code that we're writing each and every day. But one thing that we can do is we can start to become more productive with AI. Now, When I say we, I mean humans can be more productive with AI. Not AI is supposed to replace humans, because it's not. It's complete nonsense. But we as human beings could actually start getting back more time in our day by working with AI, right? And I do see Gen AI as one of those once in a generation innovations. Now, I've seen a lot of innovations come through that I thought were maybe a little bit ridiculous in the tech world. I just had my 21st birthday, but I've been in tech for 13 years. And I've seen a lot of different waves within tech. And I'll admit that I was quite skeptical when I started seeing everyone talking about agents and Chat GPT, because I remember the Web3, the crypto, the NFT thing. And I was like, I don't know. But now, on the other end, I'm starting to feel like, okay, I do think that generative AI is a thing that's going to be here, that's going to stay, that is actually useful. Because sometimes, remember, like at Christmas, you used to get those toys from your mom that were like a novelty that weren't actually useful. My mom used to give us a toothbrush sanitizer with like a green light. Where it's like, oh, this is useful, but no, thanks, Mom. Probably just go ahead and throw it in the pile with the other gifts that I didn't really like. No, just kidding. Sorry, Mom, if you ever see this recording. And at Atlassian, we're growing our AI capabilities. So with OpenAI, Meta, Google Vertex, Anthropic. And we are also even growing our own AI capabilities through a product called Rovo, which actually allows you to connect and do search, learnings, chats, as well as work with agents as well, like other AI tools and products. And we actually are integrating with other products as well, Databricks, Figma, GitHub. Does anyone work for any of these companies that you see up here? Okay, awesome. So we have some people in the room. So we're actually growing our AI capabilities as well to integrate with some more products. But here's the thing. Whether you're a developer that's using a pair programmer via an IDE, using like GitHub Copilot or Duo or ChatGPT or something else, or whether you're just like me trying to, write an email message back to someone that might have sent you an email, or trying to come up with some type of strategy document, there's one thing that all of these AI tools have in common, which is you have to write a prompt in order to use that AI tool. And how good or how effective that prompt is actually going to impact how productive that tool that you're working with actually is. So I did all of that to say, this is the reason why I decided to submit this talk, which is to talk about how you can actually create those more effective prompts so that you can actually start getting the value out of your AI tools, whether you're using a ChatGPT just to write a message, or whether you're using one of those pair programmers, like one of the AI coding tools that are out there. So what is a prompt? Let's start with that first. Now, a prompt is a natural language request that's going to direct generative AI to complete a specific task. So who here uses generative AI almost every single day, like ChatGPT or something? Yeah, the majority of the room. So that means that most of you are already writing prompts today, right? Now, there's this new field that's kind of emerging and evolving that I started to become interested in about a year ago, which is actually prompt engineering. So how you can start crafting your prompts and how you can start building out those prompts to improve the actual messaging that you're getting back from your AI models in order to refine the answer that's coming from those different models that we're working with. So well-designed prompts, they're going to give AI some clear context, those clear instructions to help it understand your intent, and also it's going to help to produce those relevant responses. Like similarly, let's say if I were to ask, what is the weather in Dallas, and what if the AI tool has never been actually trained on what Dallas is, right? So then I might want to start off with, what is the weather in Dallas? And just FYI, Dallas is a city in Texas in the United States. So you really want to kind of give that context and make as much context as you can give in order to make sure that you're giving the prompt the types of context that it needs in order to give you the results and the answers that you're expecting. So what are some of the benefits of prompt engineering? So one of them is improved model performance. One of the things I noticed a lot when we especially would put our an AI tool in front of end business users, they would get very frustrated because they wouldn't necessarily get the answers that they were expecting. So they would just say this AI tool is completely trash. And we would say, no, the tool actually works. But the thing is, you actually have to use certain tools and skills in order to get the actual answers that the AI tool it will be able to expect and be able to give correct responses. So it's good to improve those model performance so that can actually produce those more accurate, relevant, and informative results. Also reducing bias and harmful responses. I admit I personally have never got a mean answer from an AI tool that I have worked with. We ran an AI workshop a few days ago, and someone in the workshop was actually trying to get our product Rovo that I mentioned earlier to give it a mean response. I don't know why someone would actually do that, but they did. But it does help to reduce the bias and the harmful responses. It increases your control and your predictability for the answers that you're going to get. And it also enhances the overall user experience. So if you're working with the AI tool and you're feeling like the tool is not just giving you the answers that you need, well, it could be that it's your prompts that you're writing and that they need to be improved or be better. So this is growing, the actual types of prompts. It's starting to become a whole science out there, but I wanted to focus on 3 types of prompts for today's presentation. So the one is the direct prompt. So we have something called zero-shot prompting, which involves providing the model with a direct instruction or question without any context or examples. So you might just say, like, what is the capital of Texas, right? That's not really giving any additional examples of other states, other capitals, or anything like that. You're just asking a straight-out question. The other one is called few and multi-shot prompts, which involves actually providing the model with one or more examples of your desired input and output pairs before presenting the actual prompt. So this can help the model to better understand the task and be able to generate some more accurate responses. And I have some examples of those a little bit later in the presentation. And then we also have chain of thought prompts, which actually encourages the model to break down some complex reasoning into a series of intermediate steps. So you're going to want to take a large task, and you're going to want to, instead of just asking the model to perform that large task, you might want to think about, well, what are the steps that get me from beginning to end? And what are the milestones that I can feed the prompt in succession in order to get me to that final end result that I'm actually trying to achieve? So here's some high-level tips and tricks. The first is just to start simple. Many of the tools out here today have some free and open playgrounds where you can adjust things like the temperature on a large language model. You can fine tune to be able to break it down into different tones and clarities, if you will. But you can also break things down into those subtests as well to gradually build upon the results that you expect. And then also the instruction. You're going to want to make sure that you're using clear commands into that large language model so it knows exactly what to do. So if you want the prompt to write an email message for you, then you need to actually use the words, write me an email message, or I expect a response in the form of an email message, or I want you to translate this from, Spanish to English. So make sure that you're using some of those. Also, you're really going to want to make sure that you put the instruction at the beginning of the prompt, and then separating the instruction using these hashtags as well. So I remember the first time I was coding with one of my coworkers about a year ago, and I saw him actually put the hashtags in there, and I was like, what is that? I was like, are you trying to write a comment? And he's like, no, this is a way to separate the instruction and the context. So if you put it all together, like let's say you want to write a response for an email message that your coworker sent you, and you want to specify like, hey, can you reply to this email message, make it a professional tone, et cetera, et cetera. If you just paste your instructions and paste the email message right next to each other, the large language model might not know where the prompting stops and the actual email message text begins. So by putting in those hashtags, that actually allows you to tell the large language model, hey, this is the instruction part of the prompt, and then this is the actual text in the prompt in order to provide that separation. And here's some strategies for writing some better prompts. So the one thing you're really going to want to do is make sure that you're setting clear goals and objectives. So use action verbs to specify the desired action. So Write a bulleted list that summarizes the key findings of an attached research paper or an attached document, et cetera, et cetera. Define the desired length and output format for what you're expecting. How many people have ever asked a large language model to respond to something and it gave you like a novel? Yes. So you want to make sure that you tell a large language model clearly, like your response should be either 250 words or less, 100 words or less, or even 500 words or less. You also want to try to specify the target audience. This was something that we used to do a lot as a Salesforce developer. So as a Salesforce developer, when we would write Apex code using ChatGPT, well, ChatGPT at the time didn't really know Apex code because it was so similar to Java. So what we would say is, as a Salesforce developer, help me find these accounts and then help me write a trigger to be able to update these accounts within Salesforce. So that helped the large language model to understand, okay, well, since you're a Salesforce developer, that means that you're most likely writing with Apex, and there are some nuances that are clear and different between Apex and Java, so let me give them code that actually works for a Salesforce type of application. So specifying the target audience actually helps in those types of regards as well. And then you want to make sure I didn't skip one. Provide context and background information. So make sure you're including relevant facts and data. So here's just a random example. Given that global temperatures have risen by 1 degree Celsius since the pre-industrial era, discuss the potential consequences for sea level rise, or global warming, if you will. And then you want to make sure that you're referencing specific sources or documents. So based on the attached financial report, this is something I used to do a lot when I was back in my MBA, analyze the company's profitability over the past 5 years. And you also want to define some key terms and concepts. So explain the concept of quantum computing in simple terms suitable for a non-technical audience, which might be something that you want to do if you're doing a presentation at some place like a technical conference. And then you can also use few shot prompting as well. So the few shot prompting is going to be, again, those input and output pairs. So if you were to tell a large language model, my input is cat, and what I would expect is a small furry mammal with whiskers, like my own cat Shuri. And then the input is dog, and then the output is a domesticated canine known for its loyalty. My dog's not loyal at all. If you try to break in my house, you'd probably say you could have it all, just feed me. And then there's a prompt for elephants, and then you could just play around and see what the large language model might come back with for an elephant. Or you can demonstrate the desired style or tone. So a lot of the times when I'm writing in ChatGPT, I sometimes get a tone back that sounds very much like ChatGPT as opposed to my tone. So sometimes what I like to do is I like to try to feed a large language model maybe something that I've written myself and say, can you try to put it in this type of tone? This is my tone, please don't change the tone. There was one time that I was asking ChatGPT to check a response for me, and when it came back, it just sounded so formal that it didn't sound like me at all. And I was like, no one's going to believe I wrote this. So you want to really make sure that you're checking the desired style or tone and trying to feed the large language models those types of examples that you expect. And then also the desired level of detail. So you want to make sure that if you're expecting something that's brief, that you ask it to send me something that's brief, or if you're expecting something that's a little bit more detailed, that you're asking the large language model to return something that's a little bit more detailed. So be specific. Also, you want to use precise language, avoid ambiguity. So instead of write something about climate change, write a persuasive essay arguing for the implementation of stricter carbon emission regulations to make it very, very clear and to avoid that ambiguity. And then you also want to quantify your responses whenever possible. So instead of write a long poem, write a sonnet with 14 lines that explore themes of love and loss. Now, you might feel a certain type of way about that because I've seen a lot of things in the news where, I don't know, there was like some, how do you call it, affectionate large language modeling or something like that? I don't know. So, but if you are wanting to write something in that tone, make sure that you tell him what you want. And then, of course, just going back to breaking down those complex tasks in those smaller steps. And if you think about our everyday work, like for me, breaking things down into smaller steps is always helpful. For example, if there's any type of task that I have to do at work, I try to think about what is the end goal and then what are the smaller steps to get me to that goal. And you want to do the same thing. It kind of feels like sometimes when you're talking to a large language model that you're talking to a toddler at times, but sometimes that's what the large language model needs in order to be able to give you exactly those responses. So a big thing is experimentation. As a developer, you should always be experimenting. You should always be iterating to figure out what works, what doesn't work, using those playgrounds. Try to rephrase your prompts, use some synonyms, some alternative sentence structures, adjust the level of detail and specificity, add or remove information to fine-tune those outputs that you're expecting. And you also want to test different prompt lengths as well. So always continue experimenting with different large language models. For me, I did use GitHub Copilot a few times when coding, especially my new job at Atlassian. We have this platform called Forge where we get to create different products and things to extend the Atlassian platform. And for me, when I use ChatGPT with GitHub Copilot, I wasn't exactly getting the correct things that I would expect when I was getting stuck in terms of trying to debug and work through errors. But then when I switched over to Claude Sonnet, it was starting to give me some more of the on-par answers and correct answers than what ChatGPT was giving me. So I think some of that experimentation of just switching between different large language models, using Vertex, using Claude, and using and ChatGPT to try to figure out which one works best for that task that you're trying to do, and then starting to test different prompts with each one of those different large language models. And leveraging chain of thought. Has anyone ever heard of chain of thought prompting? Oh, okay, awesome. So chain of thought prompting involves using some step-by-step reasoning. So I do absolutely not recommend doing math in large language models, but we do have an example here, but I do not recommend doing math. You start to get some weird things when you start to try to do math in large language models. But in terms of step-by-step reasoning, if you we're trying to teach a prompt to work through a math problem. Something like solve this problem step by step. John has 5 apples. He eats 2. How many apples does he have left? And then you broke that into step 1. John starts with 5 apples. Step 2, he eats 2 apples. So we need to subtract 2 from 5. Like actually telling the large language model, we need to subtract 2 from 5. And then the answer is John has 3 apples left. So it's kind of taking the large language model through that reasoning of how you arrive to an answer that would be subtraction for John. Now, obviously, this is very simplistic. Most large language models can do basic subtraction, but there are some times that you may come across like some maybe more complex calculations where you might actually have to work the large language model through that reasoning. Another thing is to ask the model to explain its reasoning process. That's one of the things I love to do is when there's something that I'm stuck on and the large language model solves it for me, whether I'm using an IDE with a pair programmer, what I will do is I will say, okay, you solved that problem for me, but now tell me what exactly was wrong. Like, what was I missing? So make sure that you're asking the large language model to explain its thought process, just so that you can see how it works through things, different types of logics, different types of reasoning, but also so that you can check its thinking as well, and that you just don't walk away with the answer that it gives you. And then you can also guide the model through your own logical sequence of thought. So I know a lot of people have been, a little bit skeptical at times of some of the answers that large language models and things give. But I think that if you first prompt that large language model through a similar problem, and then you ask it to solve another problem, it also helps it to be a little bit more accurate as well. So some best practices, just to reiterate those best practices. So use unambiguous prompts. Clearly state what you want in your prompt to prevent AI misinterpretation. For example, specify that you need a summary, not an analysis when you need one, so that AI delivers a response that matches your goal. Make sure that you're putting adequate context within the prompt. Include enough context and specify the output requirements in your prompt, such as, that tone, that clarity, the length, all the things we talked about earlier. Make sure that you're balancing between targeted information and your desired output. So make sure that you're giving the amount of context that the prompt needs, and don't give it overly complex situations that it would need to work through. And if you are going to give it an overly complex situation that the AI model would need to work through, make sure that you're either using chain of thought prompting to give it some type of reasoning that it can go off of, or some type of logic you can go off of, or make sure that you're breaking the prompts down into smaller tasks and steps. And then finally, make sure that you're experimenting and refining the prompt. Try different large language models, try the playgrounds, and yep, right on there. Thank you. And make sure that you're trying those different playgrounds and things that are out there as well. You see, I was right on there. Thank you.